I'm live again. Hello, everyone. It's Alicia. And once again, I put on makeup today because I did a Newsmax hit with Spicer & Co. that you can watch later. I think I'm going to be on Liz Wheeler's show on OANN again today. And I'm kind of fired up about a few things that are happening in the news. If you know me, if you follow me, if you're watching this and you don't know me, my name is Alicia Krause, and I have worked in conservative media since I was 18 years old. And I call it conservative media because it has always been very clear and open about being conservative media. I've never worked at a mainstream media company. I have lots of friends who have had great experiences, who have really done good jobs as being actual legitimate journalists, who don't utilize their positions to try to sway people in one way or another. And I think that that's a really tough thing to do. And I respect people who actually do that. We are consistently seeing, since I was 18, I'm now 34, I call myself a grandma millennial, 34, I can say that 5 times fast. I call myself a grandma millennial because I'm on the older end of the millennial spectrum, right? And since I was 18, and probably even many of you who are older than me would argue even before, we've seen a lot of what we refer to as the mainstream media being very left of center, skewing to the left, and oftentimes trying to portray themselves as these centrists who are presenting both sides, who are, to steal the Fox News phrase, fair and balanced. But they're truly not, right? They're consistently spewing their talking points or portraying stories to a narrative that works for their bottom line, that works to get the ratings. Because let's be honest, people need clicks, right? I want views on this, but I'm going to be true to what I have to say and what I believe, unlike other people that work at a lot of media outlets. This happens in the booking of the guests. This happens in the topics that they choose. This happens in the people that they hire, and so on and so forth. But I truly think that even though the media has been biased for a very long time, we are now seeing more than ever before an insane amount of idiocy by many in mainstream media and their inability to just call a spade, as the old saying goes, their ability to cover the news in a very clear and honest light. And we are seeing like explicit bias, I think, when it comes against middle Americans or religious Americans or parents who care about their children. Some of examples of this that I'll get to are how they're covering school closures, how they've covered the riots and the protests, and how they cover people that are worried about their First Amendment right to gather and their freedom of worship. And a perfect example of this is, and I've been tweeting about this all week because it really annoys me. I think I even posted it to my Insta stories the other day, is that the other day my husband actually sent me this article and he's like, do you see the image on this? And I was like, whoa. And it was an article from the LA Times that showed people gathering on a Friday, which some people down in Newport Beach, some Christians down in Newport Beach have been doing every Friday now for about a month, where they gather at the beach, they have outdoor worship, they have prayer time, and they're baptizing people. They're evangelizing and baptizing people. And the headline from the LA Times talked about the increase in COVID cases in Orange County. Previously, LA had been one of the 19 counties that Newsom has had an eye on because of course, the more dense population here. I think a lot of minimum wage workers and people in minority communities that inherently work in minimum wage jobs, and then they unfortunately were more exposed to COVID and then getting COVID and being hospitalized for COVID. This is something that we hadn't seen in Orange County that tends to skew more upper middle class white Americans, right? And there'd been this uptick in Orange County, and the LA Times headline was talking about this uptick while they showed a picture of Christians gathering on a beach in Newport Beach. I automatically assumed, just reading the headline and the picture caption, like honestly a lot of people do, that, oh wow, there must be some correlation, or the LA Times is trying to draw a correlation between religious gatherings in Orange County and the increase in COVID cases. I read the entire article. I think it was over 800 words. It didn't take me too long. Absolutely nothing in the article from the LA Times that could point back to or even mentioned any affiliation between an increase in COVID cases and religious gatherings. Not at all. It actually talked about maybe some people getting together on the beach, and it talked about people having private gatherings in their homes, even when they were groups of 10 or less, that people are kind of getting over it, and that people in Orange County don't really love wearing masks, and it's one of the places where not that many people have been masking when they're in public places. I'm a fan of wearing a mask. I just think it can't hurt us, right? And I know that I'm going to have followers and fans that disagree, and that's fine. I'd love to hear your feedback. But why is the LA Times including a picture of people at a religious gathering on a beach in the open air in an article where it's touting the increase in Orange County COVID cases? It's because they have an implicit agenda to make religious Christians look bad. This is something that happens all the time. And then another way in which the media bias happens and is so apparent is we have that naked lady that walked up to the federal agents, strutted her stuff and walked up to the federal agents. And you see the image of her from behind where she's sitting down and you can see her back and her butt and her legs are obviously spread out in the direction where her hoo-ha is facing the federal agents. And she has been praised. This same week, the LA Times decided to call that image iconic and talk about how important and impactful and unique it was. I mean, let's be honest, as long as there have been protests, there have been women that have taken off their shirts for it. I don't think it's that unique. I don't know how it works. Emily Ratajkowski does it all the time. It's how she's made a career for herself. Okay, if that's what she wants to do, fine. But if I were, and I tweeted this the other day, if I were to go in front of Planned Parenthood every single day nude, which I would protest in front of them every single day, but not nude. If I were to do it nude, not only would the mainstream media probably ignore it, if they were forced to cover it, they would, I'm sure, do a deep dive into all of my radical religious conservative conspiracies and core beliefs. They would not be calling me iconic. They would not be calling me a feminist. They would not be calling me brave because it doesn't fit their agenda. In another way is that the media, even this week, is continuing to call these ongoing riots, by the way, in Portland. And I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not gonna get into the federal agents being sent and all this stuff that we've been talking about. But literally, there are riots happening in a major US city, one of the biggest cities with huge, collegiate, economic, creative impact on our society, especially on the West Coast. And it's been going on for 56 days? They're trying to burn out federal agents and city employees in a federal courthouse, lighting fires and throwing Molotov cocktails while human beings are inside, and that's supposed to be labeled as a protest? It's not. And I think that the inability of the media to determine the difference between a legitimate protest and crazy terroristic level riots, guys, is another area, and there's a problem. So picking and choosing what they want to cover and what they want to call it, going after conservative Christians and people who want to gather peacefully on a beach and pray and baptize, praising one side versus the other. And I mean, it can go on and on. And then the final thing that really ticks me off, and Janice Dean, of meteorologist over at Fox News, has done a lot of coverage on this, is the ongoing bias that is towards governors like Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo in New York, who have been responsible for a lot of bad leadership, I think, when it comes in how they've handled the COVID crisis from the very beginning, including sending some of our most vulnerable citizens, the elderly, COVID positive patients, back into nursing homes where they were sitting ducks and they were able to spread it to other people. That has been responsible for thousands of deaths. And then when they got called on it, they tried to cover it up by labeling those deaths as other things and not related to COVID. I mean, you saw Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio do horrible jobs at managing this state of emergency and this international pandemic in their areas. Newsom, I don't think, is doing that much better. I think Cuomo's way worse, though. And yet, you have so many in the mainstream media that are lauding him and how amazing he is. And they take these little sound bites of him and how he talks about wearing a mask even though he doesn't do it himself. And it's supposed to be are we really supposed to ignore what utter failures they are? And this is why I think for the last couple of years, you've seen an increasing number of people that have major distrust in media. I think during this COVID crisis, no one has done an incredible job, including the Trump White House, of handling it. And I think you've seen an increased distrust in the federal government and people in positions of government authority. As a small government-minded conservative, I'm okay with this, except I hope that it doesn't lead to anarchy and Marxism. I want it to lead to people being involved at a local level and becoming more constitutionally conservative. And throughout all of this, you're going to continue to see a rising distrust in the media. It's just going to continue to occur when they are consistently gaslighting us and pretending to do and say one thing while they consistently do another. And as I say to our four girls, actions speak louder than words. And the actions of many in the media right now is that they are choosing to ignore the scientific facts. They are choosing to ignore the stats on the table. They are choosing to ignore the impact that this is having on millions of Americans, including our children, which I will get into on Saturday or Sunday when I talk to you guys this weekend, because this state of education right now is really pissing me off, and it is really concerning me, and an area in which the media tells me that we are bad if we care about wanting to educate our children and other innocent children around the country because we're grandma killers, like my girlfriend Bethany Mendel, is outrageous. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there's a big media story, even just from this week or today, that I might have missed, where their bias has been extremely apparent. And leave comments, share with friends. I love to have chats with you guys, and I will see you soon.